Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Code. One topic, no script. And today we are talking top 5 moments of impact for Batman. Now, keep in mind that all of our choices are subjective. These belong to us and us alone. And if you disagree with them in any way, shape, or form, that is absolutely fantastic. Let us know in the comments section below why you disagree and what you think your top 5 moments of impact for Batman should be, so we can have a conversation about that. Now, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right. And we did have a little talk before, this episode. So I had to change my number 5.
You
At the last minute, I did, because now I feel like I needed to. But no, at number 5, I have Bruce's struggle with Venom. And that was when he was taking all of it at once.
Was that in the Legends of the Dark Knight?
Yes.
I think
Great
that
story.
was a moment where things clicked for him. He needed it to be the best at that time, but then come to find out the ramifications of it really tore him apart. And I think that is one of my favorite Batman scenes. It definitely makes the top 5 of where, Alfred, he basically just tells Alfred, you need to lock this door and let me stay in the cave. Like, you can't do anything. I have to be down there. I got to get all this out of me, get through the withdrawals, everything. And just to see how he comes out of it was just mind blowing. Alfred's just like, dear God, like, what happened? He's like, I'm all good now.
Whenever anybody asks me about other Batman series besides Batman or Detective, I point him to Legends and the Venom run specifically.
Yeah.
That is such a good story.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, that's an awesome number 5. Tone, what do you got for number 5?
My number 5 is Final Crisis, Bruce Wayne killing Darkseid while Darkseid sends Bruce careening through time. And I say that was my number 5 moment of impact because if we really think about the history of the DC universe, no one has ever truly killed Darkseid. And at that moment, Bruce killed using a gun, something he swore he would never do, killed Darkseid's mortal body. Now, it doesn't end Darkseid, the multiversal being, but it got him out of this plane of existence, saving Earth. Right. And no other hero has done that, to include Superman. Right. And that also starts the events that define many of DC's crises and events for the next decade. Right. That Bruce dies, but technically is in the Omega effect, careening backwards in time. So he does something that's never been done before. He careens backwards in time, exposing him to the dark god Barbados in the dark multiverse, which rears its head multiple times in later story arcs. So yeah, it also, when he brings it back, he comes back from that whole event. It sets the stage for the Batman Incorporated run, where he starts using his money and influence to support operations globally, not just in Gotham, for other superheroes under his umbrella. So that's why I say that's one of his most impactful moments, the killing of Darkseid.
Okay. Jamie, you got any thoughts on that?
I was gonna say, first off, you just mentioned Tim's favorite book of all time, which is Final Crisis.
I hate
but
that.
No, I was gonna say, real fast, fun fact is, when Batman Incorporated first came out, it was slated for only 8 issues. And right at issue, I think it was 5, they made it an ongoing. So up to issue 8, it says 8 out of 8. And then you have 9, 10, 11, and so on and so forth from it. Kind of like when we did the review, me and you were talking, Tone. And I was like, yeah, TMNT last run, it was only slated for 4 issues, but they added the 5th. And you're like, oh, well, there it is.
Yeah.
My opinion on that, Tone, is that is a great choice for you. My personal opinion, Sonny loves Final Crisis. You and him can sit and talk about it until the sky turns green. But I think Final Crisis is such a convoluted mess that they had to come out with a companion to tell you how to read it. Now, I will admit that the Death of Batman was one of the few diamonds in the pile of coal.
So
For that,
I would like to clarify. At no point did you hear me sing a single praise for Final Crisis. The question was top 5 Batman moments. That's a Batman moment.
Hey, Tim, the man has a point.
We are all on the same page here.
Final Crisis made my brain hurt. Right.
Thank you. Oh man.
But it's got atrocities.
I believe that the opening to Final Crisis is the book where the new gods of Apocalypse, where they actually catch Batman, right? That's like not in Final Crisis proper. It's like the last book before the Final Crisis starts.
Right.
They take Bruce off the board. For me, from that point on to the end where Bruce kills Darkseid, you can skip everything in between. Right?
Sonny,
sorry,
I hope you watch this, buddy.
Sorry, Sonny.
Truth is being spoken right now.
There's a lot going on. Most of it I don't understand. Mr. Terrific, yeah, jumping, yeah.
Why is he here? What's going on? I don't understand.
People
Who are
moving.
you? Why do you have a child? Like what?
People moving. Crisis. Batman kills Darkseid. Great, yeah.
Crisis over.
I'm rereading this now.
What just happened? Okay. All right.
What's your number 5
pick
Tim?
for number 5, Tone? That's amazing. Great conversation starter. Moving on, my number 5 is something I mentioned before in top DC storylines, and I'm going to bring it here again, and that is the breaking of the bat, Nightfall, for my number 5. That is a moment of impact that is still referenced today, still talked about regularly. Bane, brings it up all the time. Batman himself brings it up all the time. Jason Todd brings it up from time to time. But it's always something that's there, like the character that was supposed to be the peak human physical condition was beaten by the monster with Venom. And if you take Legends of the Dark Knight into continuity as far as like when he used Venom, Batman had access to that before, so he knew what it could do, and Bane still broke him down both mentally and physically.
Yeah, very, very good choice.
Yeah, absolutely unassailable choice there.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, number 4. What do you got?
Well, you made my number 4 a lot easier because at my number 4 I have Breaking of the Bat with Batman. This is the first time, just to piggyback off what you said, Tim, too, is after that he obviously couldn't do anything, so there was a new successor to the helm of Batman.
Yeah,
in John Paul Valley. And I think he actually had a moment to have that reference of him looking at what could be and what he didn't want to happen.
Exactly, all at once too.
Yes. So I think that was that struggle that he needed at that time to be like, okay, I got to get back and I have to stop what's happening with John Paul Valley and also reclaim my mantle again.
Yeah.
Right on. Tony, you got any thoughts on that?
Not too many. I have some, but I'm going to save them for when I get to it because clearly it's going to be on my list.
Well, speaking of that, Tone, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is non-canon, but I believe was originally intended to be canon, and that is The Dark Knight Returns, Batman's beating of Superman, right?
Wonderful choice.
I think that what Frank Miller did with Batman in The Dark Knight Returns fundamentally reshaped how comic writers approach the Batman character. And
that was one of 2 stories from DC that showed audiences that comics were not for kids, that they could be written in a mature fashion with mature subject matter, and it worked.
And if you listen to Frank Miller talk about his work that he did there, he said that I'm trying to remember, who was it? Was it Dan Jurgens who was writing Batman at that time? The main Batman book.
That is a good question.
Yeah, no, that was Jurgens.
Okay.
And he said, Frank Miller said that he wanted when he conceptualized The Dark Knight, he wanted them both writing the same character, just 30 years later, you know. And so that's why I said I believe in a kind of an abstract way he intended for it to be canon, even though we know it's not canon, right?
Well, yeah, because back then Elseworlds didn't exist.
And so the aspect that Batman is just not a guy who went out and chained and put on a suit, but the entire Batman persona is almost a psychosis. He's just as mentally ill as surrounding his fixation on Batman as the criminals are, and how it drives him as an older man back out to do these things. I must protect Gotham, and all of that leading into that confrontation with Superman, which is the first time we see Bruce beat Clark.
And what a fight too.
Yes. And it made sense within context. The context of the world is drawn, and that set the stage for the next 40 years of fanboys screaming at each other about which one can beat which one. But it's the quintessential moment of man conquering God.
Right. Absolutely.
The ultimate aspiration that if I try, which I'm always amazed at. So in the modern world, so many people gravitate more towards Superman than Batman. Batman's a joke. Batman's this. Batman's that. Right. The current comic world, especially the youth, are so cynical towards Batman.
With enough prep time, Batman can do anything.
Yeah, and it drives me up the wall because he's the one that's supposed to inspire you in a different way than Superman, right? Like,
right.
With just me being a human, I can stand in the pantheon of gods, right? Through my will, through my effort, right? Through my ingenuity, me making the best of myself, I too can stand on that level, and it's supposed to be inspiring. And I think people miss that message. And so, but yeah, that bottom line is that that's my number 4. Dark Knight Returns. That fight with Superman is iconic, and Bruce beating Superman sets the stage for 40 years of comic canon.
That is a great choice. Jamie, you got any thoughts on that before we move on?
No, like I said, he hit the nail on the head on that one. I mean, the best representation of that to me in any form would probably be Batfleck in the movies, like the suit, dwelling down to them having old conversations about, remember when this happened and life was easier and it was just penguins and robotic toys coming after you
and
like
crazy clowns.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, great spot for that one.
Well, speaking of crazy clowns, let's go ahead and go with my number 4. And my number 4 is the Alan Moore classic, The Killing Joke.
Oof.
I just got that, by the way. Like,
dude, you've read it before, right?
No, I've seen the animation adaptation of it.
Scratch that.
I couldn't afford it because they had the first editions only out, and I wasn't spending like $500 on the first
Get
edition.
ready for a wild ride, because not only is this one of the iconic cornerstone confrontations between Batman and the Joker, but this is also the moment when Barbara Gordon gets paralyzed and goes on her road to becoming Oracle.
I mean, I know the synopsis of it. It's just never got a chance to actually fully experience it unless it was the animation.
Yeah. But as far as like a moment of impact for Batman, even though The Killing Joke is more of a Joker story, Batman is still heavily influenced, and his whole life is changed with this meeting with the Joker. I mean, the mental manipulation, the physical exertion, having Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon, and Barbara Gordon, being affected in such a way, people that are very close to him on a personal level, and just what the Joker does throughout the course of it. If you've read it, you already know, and I'm just spitting at grass. But if you haven't read it, you need to read it, because this is one of the greatest Batman stories that has ever been written.
Agreed wholeheartedly, 100%. I don't think you can consider yourself a Batman fan or a Joker fan. Let's say you're just one of the people that came along with the movies and you just like seeing Joker. To really get into the mindset of the Joker, you gotta read The Killing Joke.
This one right here, this guy. is
Yeah.
from The Killing Joke. Absolutely. Okay, so that's my number 4, gentlemen. Let's go ahead and move on to number 3. Jamie, what do you got?
Number 3, I've got the death of Jason Todd.
Ooh.
This obviously is a high impact moment for many reasons, but it's the first time he's actually lost somebody that he considered a son. So in that regards, it was basically him being in the same situation with his parents that just altered. Another great Joker story that came along with it. And it's had ramifications for him for years as Jason Todd became the Red Hood. Always going against the grain against Batman. He's always beating himself up that he didn't make it in time. Like, and basically telling Jason, like, if I could have killed the Joker, you don't think I ever not thought of it?
Yeah.
Like, you know how easy that would be just to end him. And
You bring this up a lot, but it has to be said, the whole dialogue in Batman Under the Red Hood, the animated movie, really sets.
That's even straight out of the book too.
Yeah.
Like, and it that's why I liked about the movie that there are so many quotes from the book itself. And you just look at those instances of what they could have actually done if that one guy didn't vote 200,000 times, in one sitting. But actually, another one quick fun fact: I was reading, I think it was Task Force Z, and they're like, "Oh, this guy." They were making fun of Jason. They're like, "Oh, this guy got beat to death by a crowbar. Why should we listen to him?" He goes, "Actually, I didn't get beat to death by the crowbar. I got messed up by the crowbar, and then the building exploded."
I got blown up. The Joker didn't kill me with a crowbar. He killed me by blowing me up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay, what a list so far. Tone, do you think you can add something to that is comparable at your number 3?
My number 3, you have both already spoken about. My number 3 is
Nightfall.
The Breaking of the Bat. Right? That's the wrong one. There we go. Breaking of the Bat. That's my number 3. And that starts, what I wrote down was there's the entire arc there, which starts with the Venom arc and ends with the Breaking of the Bat, leading into Nightfall. The Venom arc, Bruce, in the despair he goes into, not being able to save the girl who's pinned by the rock as the water rise.
Yeah.
Right. The not being able to catch the people that originally kidnapped her. Right. Feeling inadequate, turning to this super drug that enhances physical prowess, speed, becoming addicted to it. He doesn't know it's a derivative of what will be Venom. He has no idea of that. And then him going cold turkey on it, appearing to have kicked it cold turkey and coming out of the cave stronger. But when you get into the Nightfall story arc, as he's being pressured and he doesn't know where this pressure is coming from, the villains are getting tougher and they're coming more frequently. He doesn't know this is all a setup by Bane. When he tries to meditate, they talk about he hasn't really been able to meditate since he went cold turkey. Like there are impacts on his body. He's been weaker. He's been less focused, and it all culminates into Bane ultimately confronting him and breaking his back. And so I feel the girl drowning under the rock, the girl drowning under the rock, the getting addicted to the Venom derivative, the going cold turkey, the being weak when the events of Nightfall starts, right, into Bane's plan, all factor into, at the end, him with a broken back. So that's why I put it as my number 3.
Right on. I had it at 5. Jamie, you had it at 4. Tone, you have it at 3. That's amazing. That story is just, like, we can all agree that it's a majorly impactful story in the history of Batman. That's wonderful. Okay, my number 3 is a picture that you had up just a moment ago, and that is going to be the Death of Alfred. Yeah. So the Death of Alfred, I still have not fully read the issue where that takes place, but I know all about it. I know what happens. I know what takes place. Jamie, you and I have had this conversation before. Tone, we've had this conversation before. The Death of Alfred, the death of his father for all intents and purposes. I mean, his man in the chair, the guy that stitched him up when he couldn't do it, the man that brought him Pesci Soir in the Batcave, et cetera, et cetera. This is the guy that was not afraid to tell Batman to keep his mouth shut when he needed to and to stand up for himself when it had to be done. I mean, the list goes on as to what Alfred did, and losing Alfred. And Jamie, you said it best, is like in that one scene where he's talking to Lucius Fox and he's just not responding, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm used to hearing
a different
Alfred.
voice.
Yeah, I'm used to hearing a different voice. This is different. This is strange. Yeah, I don't have much more to say on it beyond that, but the last thing I'll say is I hope that Alfred continues to stay dead, because that would make the whole event even more impactful as the years go on.
Until a major reboot. I ain't gonna go too much into that one right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on then. Jamie, what do you got for number 2?
At number 2, I have the adoption of Dick Grayson.
Okay.
Oh,
and
that one coming. Okay.
And I think this is a good for at number 2 because of the fact that Batman's always been the dark knight, the dark side of, vengeance, justice, everything. And then comes along Dick Grayson, who had the same tragic events happen to him as Bruce did, losing his parents, not knowing what to do. And Batman gave him a home, gave him a purpose at that point. But the thing that transpired was, and I kind of related to this, is Dick Grayson kind of became Batman's Jiminy Cricket, his conscience, his wholesomeness, his, breaking the barrier of the Bat and Bruce Wayne, know when to be Bruce, but know when to be Batman. Don't collide the two into our family that we have now. And he's always been on the side of, we got to think about this. And Batman's always like, I thought about it. No, you didn't really think about it. You just made a decision. You're Batman. You think it's right.
Yeah.
Let's sit down. Let's actually talk about this.
Dick Grayson is one of few people in the entire DC universe that can talk to Batman the way that he does.
Yeah, and it is his son at the end of the day. It doesn't matter which way you cut that slice, it's always going to be his son. And even in transformation into Nightwing, he still sees Dick as, okay, that would have been me. He's the best of me.
Yep.
He's both sides of the coin that I wanted to be, but I'm on my path and I can't stop.
Right.
So at number 2, I have, obviously the adoption and the years of Dick Grayson.
That's
a great pick right there.
Yeah,
Man.
That's a huge moment of impact. Tone, what do you got for number 2?
We've already been over it. The death of Jason Todd.
Ooh, right. Okay.
That's my number 2, just because it reshaped how Bruce approached everything, not just how he was going to be Batman, but his approach to sidekicks, if you will, right? It's the ultimate mark of shame, failure, self-loathing, inadequacy that Bruce holds himself accountable for. And the interesting thing with Jason Todd is, even when he eventually came back as Red Hood, even with all that anger, he doesn't hold it against Bruce. His death, he himself doesn't hold his death against Bruce. He holds Bruce accountable for not killing the Joker afterwards, right? But not for his own death. So the person who still relives that with and fears for it to ever happen again is still Bruce Wayne. And it's resonated through every iteration of the character since then. So.
Well, Tone, why don't we go ahead and continue this conversation, because at my number 2, I also have the death of Jason Todd, Death in the Family.
You think I would have had that higher than you 2?
Yeah, but
I just got the Red Hood collection today on the wall. Boop.
Right. I thought it honestly would have been number 1 for you, and I'm surprised it made number 3. Yeah. So this is not only a defining moment for Jason Todd as a character, because at this time, the majority of comic readers for DC hated him. And The tone, you and I called in 50 million times and voted for the death of Jason Todd, I'm sure.
So you guys are the reason for this.
No, it's the one guy that actually did it 50 million times more than either of us could have done. Yeah,
he had a lot of time on his hands.
But no, it's an event unlike any other, like at a time when comic books were still seen as funny books and kids books and things like that. And The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen had barely scratched the surface in a mainstream title that was not premiere format or direct format or suggested for mature readers. They did that, and they brutalized a teenager in the comic books. The Joker was relentless in what he did, and Batman, as hard as he tried, could not make it in time. The one villain that he has that is his arch nemesis took away his second son from him, and it devastated the man all the way up to Hush, and then it just rekindled everything, and it still resonates today.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into our number ones, which I am very curious to hear what we have, Jamie, why don't you give us your 5 through 2s and then give the grand reveal?
All right. So at number 5, I got Bruce's struggle with Venom.
Mhm.
Number 4, I got Bane breaking Batman's back. Number 3 is Death of Jason Todd. Number 4 is the adoption of Dick Grayson. And my number 1 is the Death of Alfred.
The Death of Alfred. Wow. 3 things we all have had so far together on this list.
Well, real fast, if you could, Tone, could you put that panel back up that you had earlier?
Oh, yeah,
I got something I
absolutely.
got something I gotta say about that. So before I get into my details, why? If you notice in that panel, you see the smoke in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, it was written for it to be fear toxin, and that's what Damien saw with the fear toxin is Bane basically killing Alfred. He never was supposed to, but DC went, we killed him. Let's keep him dead.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
But my reason for that is, for it being my number 1, is he lost that father.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is the second time. He's already lost his son at one point. Now he's lost another father figure. As Tim said earlier, as a guy that stitched him up, brought him back. There is no one that could tell him different unless it was Alfred. There's been times where Alfred literally had to stop Batman from talking to Robins the way he did and be like, you got to treat them like kids at some point too. They're not just weapons. Stitching them up, making them food, making sure his training regimen is right, making sure all the technology's up to date. And the fact that, let's just be honest, Alfred was a badass.
Yes.
I mean, all the military training and everything, and just he knew how to go into situations. He helped Batman escape situations. The best line I've ever seen was at the beginning of Rebirth, where Batman's flying the plane down, standing on top of it, and he asks Alfred, "Is this a good death?" And Alfred says, "Yes, sir. This is the good death. This is a superhero way of going out." And that gave me chills because it wasn't the Batman aspect. It was Alfred finally saying, "You can rest at that point. Like, you've done everything you can." And to see that go away and see how he is now, half the money he has, he's got to throw 2 batarangs instead of 3. He's got to pick them up after he's done.
I'm gonna need that back, Scarecrow. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then, not having him in his ear every step of the way, that you see how much it affects him now more than anything has in the past.
Makes him stumble or second guess when he's about to jump off that ledge.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, what a number 1. Tone, if you wouldn't mind, do us the honors of your 5 through 2s and then give us the big reveal on your number 1.
So my number 5 was Final Crisis, Bruce killing Darkseid with a gun. Right. My number 4 was the non-canon Dark Knight Returns, Bruce versus Clark, Batman versus Superman, where Bruce wins. Number 3 was the breaking of the bat and the events that led up to it. Bruce being addicted to Venom, going cold turkey, eventually being taken down and having his back broken by Bane. Number 2 was the death of Jason Todd. And number 1, also the death of Alfred. Right? And for me, I see Alfred, and I don't know. They've never actually had Bruce say this. They've had Bruce talk about how much Alfred means to him, but Alfred is more of a father to Bruce than Thomas was.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's a deeper and a more connective father figure than Thomas Wayne was. When Thomas Wayne was killed, Bruce was a child.
Yeah.
Right. And through all of Bruce's exploits and adventures, his melancholy and his psychosis, wherever he may be, there's been Alfred there with love and support. Even when he spent years away, there was Alfred there with love and support. And so I think what was really telling to what Bruce means to what Alfred means to Bruce is what the Joker did in response, right, to Bane's actions, where Joker kills Bane and
really,
and tells him, right, you took the best piece to ever hurt this man off the board when you killed Alfred. Why do you think I've never could have killed the butler? Of course I could have killed the butler, right? But that's the place that was the only primal place you could hit him at to truly hurt him. And then he tells him, and you wasted it on the bird, you wasted it on the kid, right? You didn't even do it and make him watch it. And so think about how much more devastating it would have been if Joker had ultimately had his way, right? But that means that Joker understands the importance of Alfred to Bruce's life,
right?
And so it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure I like Bruce without Alfred, but I would hate if they bring him back
so soon too.
Yeah, I think they have to stay committed to keeping him dead at least for another decade. You know, if they flip it and bring him back, I think it cheapens it all. I didn't like seeing Alfred go out like that in front of Damian. And then go out for Alfred being kind of as strong as he was, Alfred saying, please, not in front of the boy. And so that whole non-glorious end to one of my favorite Bat characters still hurts in a way.
Right.
But I just think it's the most impactful. It completely throws Bruce's entire life and approach to Batman on its head.
Right on. Okay, so you and Jamie both have the same number 1. I, however, do not, because my Death of Alfred is at number 3. So let me go ahead and rattle off my 5 to 2s, and then I'll tell you what I think the top moment of impact for Batman is on my end of the spectrum. So number 5 for me is Nightfall. Number 4 is The Killing Joke. Number 3 is the death of Alfred. Number 2 is the death of Jason Todd. And my number 1 moment of impact for Batman is the meeting of the Joker, Batman number 1. So that moment right there sets the tone for the next 80 plus years of Batman history. This guy has always been there in one way, shape, or form. And nearly all major events that have taken place in Batman's life, this guy has been a part of it. The death of Alfred, the death of Jason Todd, Nightfall, he was involved in that. The Killing Joke,
Joker
Wars, 3 Jokers, Dark Knight Returns. The list goes on and on and on. There is a reason why he is the arch nemesis of Batman, the other side of the coin, the other card, so to speak. He's one of the greatest villains ever created. And when he was created, he was going to be a throwaway. He was going to be killed off in that issue, but he was saved by editorial. And they're like, no, wait a minute. Let's continue to use this guy. 80 plus years later, here we are still talking about him and his and Batman's battle between good and evil. Neither one can survive without the other, and neither one can live on without the other, or whatever the case may be. They have to have each other. They both have to be there. And it was said best in Batman the White Knight when the Joker, before Batman shoved all them pills in his throat, he's like, you need me, I need you. There is no way around it. Gotham will not work without one of us or the other. We both have to be here. So yeah, the meeting of the Joker, Batman #1, that is my #1.
Great pick.
Wow.
All right. Okay, so before we get out of here, gentlemen, Jamie, do you have anything you'd like to say to our wonderful viewing audience right now?
Yeah, guys, as always, thank you for showing up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking this video, which hopefully you did, and viewing us. But as always, be kind to one another, especially out there. Just making someone smile could change the whole perspective of their day or life. So always be kind. And guys, please, we're trying to build that bigger, better comic community for you and get to 100 subscribers and get higher up there so that way, we can keep talking with you guys. And as always, guys, I gotta say, I'll see you in the next one.
Tone, what about you? What do you got to say to our wonderful viewing audience right now?
I would like to say thank you for taking the time to share and fellowship with us this evening. Thank you for investing the time and joining the clan, and hope you continue to do so and invite your friends to do so. Remember, here at the Kodak Station, we love comics and we love heroes, and you are a hero.
That's right. Better words could not have been said, except for this. Don't forget to find us on all social media platforms, ladies and gentlemen: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Discord, podcast streaming platforms, and anywhere that you want to see and or listen to our wonderful voices and beautiful faces. What do you have to type in? Oh, that's right, at the Kodak Station, and that is where we will be. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim. This guy on either side of me is Jamie, and down below is the immortal Tone Supa, the sci-fi swordsman. This is Breaking the Code. We are the Kodak Station, and we will see you next time.
Holla.